Welcome to Junk Journal Mayhem at Studioloo.
It is day 11. We're on sponge for today. So a while ago, Mary Ellen at Red Parrot sent me some stuff, including this fire safety kitchen sponge. Somehow she got this idea that I was about safety, but we all know that's not true, and that's clearly a Mary Ellen thing. So we're going to do some crafts with this today. I don't really have a plan except I figure I should cut some piece of this off because I need a smaller piece of it that I can maybe put on an ephemera piece, and then we need to actually put the other half in water and watch it expand because that will give us a different kind of texture to work with. So I'm just using my drinking water here, and now I have the wet sponge and the dry sponge. So this is a really soft, squishy sponge, and I was pretty amused playing with it. And then I was like, I'm probably going to cut this in a few pieces and see what I can do with it. So the idea here is I'm not sure if it was to cut my fingers, the sponge. We'll see what happens. I tried this, cut it, squash it down the middle situation. That didn't work, but I thought it would be nice to thin it down. So if I do want to use it as a textural piece on a piece of ephemera, it won't be so fat. So I'm hoping I don't lose those cute little sponge bubbles as I cut it. So I'm trying to sort of rip it apart. It's not really working. We're in voiceover mode again today because I have a little bit of a calamity going on in my studio today. We're doing a little renovation project and it's a bit noisy. So now I'm just going to be drying this sponge so that I don't put a wet sponge on my ephemera. A dry sponge is totally okay though. So these are drying pretty easily, not too bad. So I'm just sort of thinking about what I'm going to do with them, how I'm going to make them sensible. I'm keeping one thicker, just trying to formulate ideas as I go with this. So I need to move all these scissors out of the way. And I've still got the dry sponge, and somehow I splashed it with a bit of water and noticed that it does this hilarious little circular puff, and it just looks like SpongeBob, and I'm so completely amused. And I really just want to turn this into a SpongeBob and put some googly eyes on it and call it a day. But I think we'll play with this. Look how cute this is. Honestly, who knew that just wetting little pieces of sponge is so amusing? But clearly I'm amused. So now I've gotten some more supplies. So this is actually a jelly print done by Mary Ellen again at Red Parrot. And then this is a 1980 newspaper from a local school, and I want to use this Mellows restaurant advertisement on this old yellow newspaper. I don't know, I just sort of felt this rusticy feeling about that sponge, and I thought I would go ahead and get an old newspaper and some Tim Holtz people, and then I found that jelly print, and I'm just going to try to put it all together. But I have to trim this down because this advertisement's really, really big, and I'm trying to not make giant ephemera all the time because I sometimes do that. But I think this is going to be good backed on folder. So just pulling some folder here and glue sticking the back of this so that we can have it be a little more sturdy, so I can start doing some fun collaging. So we'll just glue this down. Just going to trim it out, and I'm just going to cut around that nice shape of this advertisement. I like the old lamp up top. It sort of reminds me of this this diner that I used to go to in high school that was in my hometown, and they had the best fries and gravy, the kind of food you ate in high school, right? Fries and gravy were such a big deal. Okay, so these little boys, to me, they just kind of look like they'd be the kind of kids where, I don't know, I was envisioning this like something happened and they made a big mess and they had to clean it up or something. So now I'm trying to peel this sponge apart because I'm like, don't want to use the whole thing. And it would be great if we could just get that bubbly texture, but it's not really going to go that way because see, it's going to peel apart. But then I decided, you know what, I just want a piece of thin sponge regardless, and I'm going to need to change up the shape of it because putting a big rectangle down on here, it just wasn't going to go very well. It didn't look good. So sometimes you can't fight these things, right? As much as I would have liked to keep that SpongeBob situation, you just can't fight it. So now I just start doing a bunch of dangerous stuff with my knife, trying to get this to peel. And then I'm like, let's make the blade super long and we'll see if that'll work. It doesn't really, but you know, it kind of does. So I'm just like trying to be careful. I'm imagining Mary Ellen regretting sending this sponge to me, like not knowing that weeks later I would be slicing away at it with a giant long blade. Yeah, because she's a bit of a safety scout, so I'm sure she's not watching this with much amusement right now. But yeah, I do get some freeform pieces here, and I do get it peeled, and I do keep the texture. I'm just kind of experimenting, like who knew what pulling apart a dry sponge would be like, right? So if you buy a journal and this piece of ephemera is inside it, I don't recommend immersing it in water because it's just gonna turn into a big sponge. So now I realize that I just don't like how short this thing's gotten. So it was too long before, it was too big, but now it seems too small. I don't have enough room to put the sponge on there. So now we're going to save that bottom from my recycle bin and got to do something more with it. It's like I needed to lose a piece of it in the middle. Like I want the bottom and I want the top, but I don't want all that space in the middle. So now we're going to bring in this lovely jelly print. And I want to just get the white space off the corner, the sides. Cover up some of that. And then I'm trying to figure out like, okay, how am I going to cut this? So I'm going to glue this down, and then I want to cut around the border again on that. But I'm just trying to play with like the sponge a bit and also make a decision. Like we need to add this. So I wasn't sure how this glue would act on here, but this is not a water-based glue, the Fabri-Tac or 3-in-1. So it didn't cause the sponge to bloat. It stayed flat. And then I'm trying to put this together and still feeling like, this is a bit too tall again because it was too tall to begin with. So let's get rid of a section in the middle so that we get a nice shorter piece, which will be a cute ephemera size piece. Much better. So I just need to figure out like what's the best way to put this back together. And art glitter glue just to the back of the folder, right where it lines up with the top of the new piece of folder I'm gluing this onto. And this is thin folder, so it's not going to make it super bulky or anything. Now the little boys, don't they just look like they got in some kind of trouble at this restaurant? Like they spilled a whole pot of spaghetti sauce and now they've been tasked with having to clean it up. I just think they look really naughty and hilarious. So I just want to tear down my jelly print a little because I don't want to completely lose the advertisement back there. It doesn't need to all be there, but I want a little bit of it because that's sort of the point. Then I'm thinking of ways to use the chunky sponge. I feel like it's something I can use on the top of a tag, right? Because usually we put ribbon or something at the top of a tag. And so I'm thinking I'll stitch it together to make it longer and then fold it over the top. So we'll glue down another piece of jelly print to cover that seam and also to just make a nice background. We just want to have a little bit of a varied background there. This newspaper, that this Mellows ad came out of. So it's like a school newspaper, and it's so interesting. So, you know, the size of like a large newspaper, like the old newspapers that were really big. This newspaper is actually bound in its full size form into this gigantic book that I got at a thrift store a couple years ago. So it's my biggest, hugest book. I can't even really show it to you on camera. Like, I think I showed it in my thrift haul years ago when I got it, and I could just kind of show like a piece of it because like it's just humongous, in a big hardcover, hardbound, like fully cloth covered book. Like, it's got a beautiful green cover. It's huge. And it's really neat. So I think I'd love to just work with some more pages of it, making some nice collages with these old advertisements. So I like how that looks. Now it's time to do the sponge. So I head over to the sewing machine, and you'll see I've stitched around the edge there, and I've stitched the sponge to the top. And then I've just decided to cut this little free parking piece off of the same ad and add it on there as a nice collage bit. It just kind of gives it a bit of a interesting, you know, touch. So that's all glued down, and I'm just kind of looking like, should I use anything else? But no, it's come together now. We stitched that sponge up top, and I'm really happy with how this turned out. I didn't know what direction sponge was going to take me in. I love this little sponge too. I'm going to keep it here for cleaning up little messes. So thank you for joining me for this bit of mayhem, and have a great day. Bye for now.